Welcome to Compelling Conversation. I'm your host, Dush Ramachandran. Have you ever felt like, with what's going on in the world today, that there's so much unrest, there's so much of unhappiness with what's going on in our country, with the COVID-19 pandemic, there's so much unpleasantness that's going on. Do you ever feel like, gosh, this is all too much. I just want to pull the covers over my head and go back to sleep? Well, I have a really great guest on the show today who is truly going to inspire you and give you a very different view on this. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to my good friend, JD Messenger. Welcome, JD.
Hey, Dush, thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be here and look forward to our time together.
Pleasure. Thank you. By the way, for all of you out there, I should mention JD is the author of the book 11 Days in May, and he's also the founder of the Messenger Institute. And JD is kicking off this new initiative called the Phoenix Initiatives, which I'd love to talk to him about. So JD, tell us about the Phoenix Initiative. What is it? What are the aims and objectives, and what's it all about? I mean, how is it going to address what we're going through in our country today?
Well, let's take this in a few pieces. The phoenix, of course, is a symbol of rising up, the phoenix bird, rising up from the ashes and being reborn. And like everyone else, feel that the world is going through a reboot, a reset, if you will. And I remember interviewing Stephen Covey, Dr. Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, many times. But one time he told me that our GPS was broken. And he said, you know, if your GPS is broken, no matter how many times you try to get to the gas station, you'll keep going in circles and missing it. You can't get there if your GPS is broken. And I believe what we're seeing right now are changes that are decades and centuries in the making. And it's kind of like a rubber band. And, you know, on one side, you have a group of people that believe that we need to protect the environment, that we believe in equality and justice and transparency and truth. And on the other side, we have some people who are very selfish, who, you know, they want to make money. They don't care if it destroys the planet. And it creates like a polarity, you know, a left versus right, a black versus white, a up versus down, Christian versus Muslim, conservative versus liberal, you know, and this polarity has just been stretching for so long. What happened with this virus is it snapped. And it snapped because we have all these people. It's like a tsunami went out, you know, and, you know, when the tsunami hits the shore, the water goes way out, and it's a terrifying thing. I saw it in Asia, and you see all the garbage and all the jagged rocks, and you see all the things that were not visible before. Well, the COVID crisis has exposed all of the problems and challenges in society, all of I call it the great divides. The political divides, the economic, the ecological, the corporate, the spiritual, and political. And these 6 great divides have been tearing us apart. And so the Messenger Institute believes that we need leaders who promote hope and leaders that promote unity, not fear and division. And so when the pandemic started and then the Black Lives Movement and all the other things, you know, I think this is a moment in time that needs to be seized. It's a moment in time where it's a blessing in disguise, where there's a great awakening happening with humanity, you know, great changes taking place. I love the fact that the NFL has finally recognized that taking a knee is not disrespectful to the country, but rather honoring and respecting exactly what the country stands for. So if you're an American, I was a submarine officer. I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, where all men and women are created equal, where equality and justice for all, where we certainly self-determination, but all of our freedoms, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to form, these freedoms have been violated. And the problem is with leaders, and corporate leaders, political leaders, spiritual. Where are all the spiritual leaders right now? Where are all the leaders who believe in the teachings of Jesus or the teachings of Buddha or Muhammad or whoever it may be? Where are all the spiritual leaders right now? Why are they not out promoting more unity and peace? I'm getting on my soapbox here, but the point is that the Messenger Institute was formed to create conscious, heart-centered leaders for the next generation, to help lead the change in the new era. That's what it was created for and designed for over 2 years ago. So here we are now. And so the Phoenix initiatives with the tagline, Together We Rise, were designed and created to help leaders and citizens imagine a new way, embrace new life, and embark on a new journey for this new era that's upon us.
Okay.
That might have been a long-winded answer. I could say it's all about re-engineering society and re-engineering leaders to help in the global reboot.
Well, that's a good one. That's a good answer too. Well, what strikes me is that for somebody listening to what you've just described in a really impassioned way, I mean, I can absolutely empathize with what you're saying, and I completely agree that the time is now. It's exactly as you said. It's a reboot. It's basically Mother Earth, Gaia, just going, let's hit the reset button. Let's clean this all up once and for all. And we've seen with the lockdown, we've seen a dramatic reduction in pollution. We've seen dolphins in the canals of Venice, and you've seen all of these different things that are happening, which is very, very
beautiful
evidence, very powerful evidence.
Yeah, we've seen, I like to walk 40 or 50 miles a week, and I'm usually alone, walking through the paths and the trees and the forest. I have seen thousands of people walking with their children. I see people fishing with their children. People in America are cooking meals and eating together, which they never used to do. And they're bonding and they're getting to know each other. So it's like, and it's a watershed event, and it's shifting our consciousness. This is what's happened, is there's been a shift in consciousness or awareness. I like to think of it, if you ever saw the movie The Matrix with Neo, and he had the choice of taking the blue pill and staying in ignorance, or taking the red pill and going down the rabbit hole and shattering the illusions and misconceptions and discovering reality as it was. Well, that's where we are right now. Everybody's got a choice. You've got to decide who or what you love more. You've got to decide whether you want to stick your head in the sand and take the blue pill and live in ignorance, like Cypher, who wanted his fake steaks, or you want to take the red pill and awaken to your true identity, awaken to your invisible gifts and powers, awaken to equality and justice, and stand up.
That's exactly right. You made a really good point, which is, my wife and I like to go on walks as well, and we walk a lot. And we've observed the exact same thing. We go through some nice neighborhoods, and we've never seen people outside their homes. These are gorgeous, homes worth several $1 million. We've never seen people outside their homes. And after the pandemic started, we've seen children playing in the yard. We've seen families getting together, sitting around a table, or even, socially distanced conversations.
Playing virtual family games. You know,
Exactly.
our whole like a cluster of 9 in our inner family. We love cards, we love games, but we're social distance, and so we're doing the family games. We get on the video call on Sunday and we talk for 2 hours, eating and sharing about what's going on. This
And
is
it's wonderful.
the yeah. Go ahead.
It is truly wonderful. You're exactly right. So what that brings up is, yes, so we've had the reset button that's been hit. There's been a fundamental shift in our consciousness. We're now looking at, there are a lot of people, I've spoken to a number of people who used to commute, for a half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour in the big cities, driving to their work. And they paid huge mortgages on their homes, but spent barely a few hours in there every day, and perhaps over the weekend, but they were all overscheduled, with activities for their kids and, getting together with friends and this and that and the other thing. There were so many activities, people overscheduled, overstressed, overspending, and that's all been completely scaled back. So the question that comes up is, this is a great opportunity, exactly as you say, to seize the moment, seize the day, and make a truly fundamental change in our society and the way in which we can ensure that everyone in our country and in the world, on the planet, can have equal access, or at least equitable access, to all of the good things that life has to offer. So the question that comes up is, how do we start? Where do we go? What's the first thing we do? And I think the Phoenix initiatives, in the way you describe it, might in fact be just the way to get started. So walk us through that, if you would. How do we get started fixing the problem?
Let's come back to the Phoenix initiatives, because I haven't actually said what they are yet. And let's understand sort of human evolution and why we are suffer and why we're in pain, or why some deny and want to be in ignorance or ignore. Because some people are asleep and living in ignorance, and some people are waking up, and some people are already awake. Now, I will say that, when I was the CEO of Ernst & Young Management Consulting, that I was asleep, that I was ignorant, that I was arrogant, that I was interested in making more money and having stock options. I didn't know anything about unity or love or spirituality or meditation. As a military officer, nuclear engineer, leading global transformations. And I had my near-death experience where I broke my neck, and you can go to jdmessenger.com and listen to that story in the About section. But what happened was, first I had a physical crisis, and then I had an existential crisis. Who am I? Why am I here? And I took the red pill and went down the rabbit hole, and I thought it would take me a year. 10 years later, but I started off asking myself some questions. Why was I not happy? Why, if I was so successful and became a self-made multimillionaire and had 3 beautiful children and a beautiful, loving, caring wife and a nice house and servants, why was I not happy? Didn't I do everything I was supposed to do? And I realized that there was some emptiness inside me. So then I wanted to know, well, why did I feel this emptiness? And after years and years, I discovered that I was confused by social illusions, that money makes you happy. It doesn't. That who I am is a job or a title. It isn't. Or that life is a destination called retirement at Stop 401k. It's not. Life is a journey. And I discovered there were dozens and dozens of socially accepted misconceptions and illusions about who you are, what you're worth, what you're supposed to do. Now, what happens in a person is we are either sort of drawn to things from our mind, And our mind is sort of, you know, it wants these attachments. It wants sensual pleasures. It wants to be loved. It wants to be respected. It wants to be empowered, things like that. But then there's our heart, and our heart wants to love others, to love animals and natures and be compassionate and tolerant. So we're hardwired with this supercomputer to be torn between me or we, between I and me and my title and jobs and security, or others. And we're facing a macro dilemma at a very micro level. I mean, literally on the street, there are people who are saying, wear a mask to help protect other people, and others spitting in their face. And so, you know, that is an example, a simple example. Here's another simple example. People walking around angry, protesting about whatever, and someone else who's putting rocks along the pathway that says love and family and joy. You know, so this battle between the head and the heart is what is taking place. And it's a battle between self or service and others. And so the person who wants to stay in ignorance, the person who is angry and yelling at someone fighting for their right to equality, is someone that is stuck in their own head. And they may have been wounded or injured, or no one ever taught them, or they weren't educated. And so I'm not judging them and I'm not blaming them, but what has to happen, the changes that have to happen, are at three levels. Personally. First, it has to be a personal change, then socially, then professionally, or professionally, socially. Those two are variable. But all meaningful and lasting change first begins within before it's projected out. Meaning we all, at some point in our life, will have our life crisis. It can show up as the injury, like I had, a personal, a divorce, a disease, a bankruptcy. At some point in our life, every one of us will have that personal crisis. And that crisis is a wake-up call. It's a blessing in disguise that's meant to help you reset your rudder and come up with a new chart and a new map. Now, now I've lost track of what the question was. What was the question that I was answering?
Yeah, I think where we were going was, so how do we get started? There's so much inequity in the world.
Oh, okay, right.
There's
So with that, so let's take it personally, socially, and professionally. First of all, everyone is a leader. You're a leader in your house, or a leader in your community, or a leader in your company. So when I say we need to change leadership, I'm talking about everyone. And so one of the ways you can get started is at a very small level. You could go to the Messenger Institute and sign up on our free community. It's a free Unleashing Power community, and you can start taking some free courses on self-discovery. You can learn about how powerful you are. You could learn about what is fear and how do I conquer fear, and why do I feel shame or guilt, and how do these wounds create trigger events? Because what's happening whenever someone is getting very angry and fighting, they're wounded. And when you're wounded, you've had some negative emotional reaction. It's like PTSD, and the vet from the war who's driving down the road and hits a bump and all of a sudden thinks he's, you know, back in Afghanistan or something. So we have all of these wounds in us. And there's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score, where the doctor talks about, you know, 25% of us have had alcoholic parents, 5% of us have had incest, 17% have watched our parents fight, and so on and so on. We all have been wounded in some way. And when that wound is like replayed again in a scenario that could be 20 or 30 years later, it creates a trigger and we have a negative reaction. So part of what we're seeing is all the people that are wounded are having these negative reactions. So that's why I say the first thing you can do to live a happier, healthier, more prosperous life is go on the inner journey of exploration and development. And so one micro thing you could do is go to the free community on the messengerinstitute.com. But another thing is you could join a support community, because you need a support community. You need to talk, especially when we don't have anybody we can hug or hold hands with. So join a support community, create your own little virtual group, talk to people. Now, when you do that, have safe conversations. Set some boundaries. Don't be judgmental. Be compassionate. Listen, reflect back. Make sure, have good, safe conversations. Everybody in the world right now needs to learn how to have a safe, non-judgmental communication process. Socially, of course, there's lots of movements and things that you could join, but let's go to the professionally. If you're an entrepreneur and you have your own company, or you're a leader, and you've got 100,000 employees, you are very conflicted right now. Most of the CEOs I've talked to, because they're like, geez, if I speak my heart, if I say Black Lives Matter, if I talk about equality, or I don't agree with the statement the president made or Nancy Pelosi made or whatever, I'm going to get attacked. And so, unfortunately, right now, leaders do not have a choice. Standing in the middle is no longer acceptable. Some of them don't want to say anything or do anything for fear of impacting the brand, impacting the reputation, impacting the stock option. Well, I'm sorry, the middle is the dead zone. And so you've got to decide as a leader, what do you stand for and what are you going to support? And what is wonderful to me is seeing so many corporations coming out and removing their ads, and so many institutions or organizations like the NFL saying, I support taking a knee. This is what we need. So as a leader, you have a responsibility. And I'm going to tell you, all those things that you're afraid of will happen if you don't take action. So anyway.
So this is exactly the point I was getting to, which is that what a lot of leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs of large companies, what they fear is the exact opposite of what they should be doing, right? They fear that by speaking up, they're somehow going to be associated with one side or another, and therefore are going to be shunned by the other side. But the fact of the matter is that it is a moral imperative that we all stand on the right side of history. Going back to the Emancipation Proclamation, the people that stood for slavery were standing on the wrong side of history. Mm-hmm. And history has proven that the people that were standing on the wrong side of history were also the ones opposing women's suffrage. All of these major advances in civil rights and in human rights that have been made over time have been made by people who were willing to upset and overturn the status quo. Obviously, you don't achieve anything by continuing to, quietly raise your hand and say, excuse me, I have a question, I have a suggestion. People have tried that and that hasn't worked.
Go back and read the Declaration of Independence, which says, all people are we the people, we're all born equal, and the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And that after, years of trying to be kind and write letters and negotiate, that's it. We've had it. And exactly. the people have the right to stand up against any government or leader who is not promoting the welfare and the benefits of people. But people long are inclined to endure those sufferings and intolerances until the pain becomes so great that the pain to change is less than the pain to remain. And so now with, 20 or 40 million people unemployed and people starving, it's like, I don't have anything to lose here, Now, so I will go back to the corporations and say it's not just a moral imperative and I'll say, where is the moral authority in the country or the world? Why isn't the Pope speaking up more? Why aren't the spiritual leaders speaking up more? There's like the silence is deafening. And but it's a corporate responsibility, and corporations are realizing they have a social responsibility. But let me make it plain and clear. If you're $1 billion company and you just lost 15% of your consumer spend, or you own commercial real estate and people aren't working in one of the reasons corporations are responding right now, it's not because they all of a sudden got a heart or a soul. It's because they're worried about survival.
Exactly.
And so if you want to survive, you've got to decide not only which side of the moral authority, but which side of history are you going to be on? And your decision could very well affect the viability of your business.
Exactly. And I think we're seeing that. We're seeing that pan out. And it's a remarkable time. So let's circle back to the Phoenix Initiative.
Yeah.
This is something that has really grabbed my imagination, and I think will grab the imagination of a lot of our viewers. So let's talk a little bit about that. So for people that might have a little bit of influence, and by influence I mean you could be a small business owner with 2 or 3 or 5 employees, or you could be the CEO of a company with 100,000 employees. It really doesn't matter how many people are involved. But in everyone's capability, there is an opportunity to make a significant difference. And by the way, for those of our viewers who are wondering what that black fur ball is, that is my co-host, Mr. Big, who is hanging out here with me. So, JD, tell us more about the Phoenix initiatives and how CEOs, business owners, entrepreneurs, how people who have maybe small or large circles of influence can make a big difference in this time of
Sure. So let me talk about the vision. Let me talk about what the Phoenix initiatives are. Let me talk about Phoenix circles, and then how you can be a part. So again, the Phoenix initiatives is an initiative under the Messenger Institute. You can go to phoenixinitiatives.com, and it will link you to the page describing the Phoenix initiatives. The vision is to bridge the divide in 555. In 5 years, we want to groom or recruit 5 million social entrepreneurs and generate $5 billion in economic value creation by the end of the decade. In other words, we want to help entrepreneurs be social entrepreneurs and help you start a business, build a business, expand a business that is balancing people, profits, and planets, that is balancing vitality and health and nutrition, balancing sustainability and the air we breathe and the water we drink, balancing contributions to the community, balancing how you treat employees equally. So measuring economic value creation is a combination of mind, body, spirit, environment, community, and so forth. So we're trying to show that you can have a business that has the mind of a business, but the soul of a church or a charity, that you can have a business, make money, and still be good and do good and help your employees and community and environment. That's not incompatible. That's a limiting belief or thought that we need to call dead on arrival. Now, the Phoenix initiatives there are themes that we call passion themes. And so some initiatives are leadership and management. Some are social and health and vitality, or peace and justice, or unity, or personal development, innovation and creativity. So the passion themes for the Phoenix Initiative sort of forms a hierarchy of human development, like Maslow's hierarchy. Now, the initiatives, you can form an initiative by forming a Phoenix Circle. So a Phoenix Circle is a group of 10 to 15 people who share a passion. Let's say it's health, wellness, and vitality. And so you could come from one company, or you could come from 10 companies and say, we all collectively want to go on this journey together to focus on vitality, health, and wellness. And so we're going to guide you. Of course, it's not free. There's a fee, and an initiative lasts a year, and you're going to do some interpersonal work, and you're going to do some outer game work, and we're going to help guide you to create a legacy and a plan to implement whatever the theme is. If you're an organization and you want to change the management or change your culture, you could have one company could form a Phoenix Circle on leadership and management and say, I want my staff to go through this process that you just described about fear and desire and pain and suffering to help us become more conscious, responsible leaders. So I think that's kind of a quick summary of it all.
Okay. So that sounds like a really powerful thing that business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs of corporations can get involved in. But what about someone that might not have a lot of influence? They may be a college student. They might be someone who is working in a corporation at a fairly junior level. They've just gotten their career started, but they feel passionately about wanting to participate and wanting to make a difference. How might they be involved?
So that's a great question. I have several examples right now. There's a number of college students, most of them are juniors or seniors, who are sitting around doing virtual classes. They've contacted me, we've talked, and so I said, look, let's form a circle of your college student peers from your community, your college, or friends around the country. And I said, it shouldn't be free, because when it's free, it's not valued. So maybe it's $10 a month, maybe it's $15 a month. And, we can decide what to do with the money. It's certainly acceptable for you to earn some money, but maybe some money goes to scholarships if a lot of people join. Maybe some money goes to help people with food. So remember the balanced scorecard, economic value creation, bridge the 6 great divides. So all of the funds and money, any initiative sort of has to fall under these guiding principles and code of honor and things like that. But you could be a single mom, and you could be feeling alone, and you've lost your job, and you want to talk to other single moms, and we could create a circle for that. The whole idea is that personal development really accelerates when you develop a small group of trusted people. And it only takes a couple of months, maybe even a month, to develop a trusting bond with people you've never even met, if you follow the rules, safe conversations, non-judgmental. This is a very powerful, proven model. So there's really no limit to the number of circles or what a circle could be for. A circle could be for, let's say you love the Comic-Cons and you make Marvel outfits, and you want to create a business together, but you don't know how to market, but you just sew or do all the glue gun stuff, So you could create a circle of people that share that and say, we're going to get together and we're going to, build a business together, and we're going to start with this cluster, this circle, and get to know each other. And you may have some social responsibility aspect. Like, let's say, you want to help promote courage. And so, you're really adding a social value, not just because you're making Comic-Con outfits, but because you're trying to show what a true hero looks like. A hero is selfless. A hero is courageous. Things like that.
Sure. So it could be a cosplay circle, as you
Yeah,
described.
exactly. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. So
I'm Star-Lord. That's
you?
my cosplay. Yeah, I'm Star-Lord. Yeah, I can go get my gun and everything. My wife is Captain America, and we're really into that.
That's wonderful. Yeah, in fact, what we should do is if you have a picture of you in your cosplay costumes, we'll edit that into the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got one.
Okay, great. Well, get it to me and we'll edit it into the show.
All right, I'll do that.
And so we promised you, and here it is. Okay. So let's continue our conversation, JD. This is really fascinating. So now, how do you think, or how do you anticipate that the Messenger Institute and the Phoenix initiatives might play a role in helping people that have whose livelihoods have been devastated by the pandemic, or people that are struggling to find some way by which they can have their voice heard, their votes counted. There's a lot of disenfranchisement going on, especially in some of the states. There are other states that are better than others. How might the Phoenix initiatives be helpful in that space?
Well, the beauty of this great American spirit and experiment is the Bill of Rights, where we have the right to freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and freedom to assemble. But some people have confused that just because you have the freedom to assemble or freedom to speak or freedom of religion does not mean you can use those freedoms to impose your will on another. And unfortunately, far too much of that has been going on. I'll just take healthcare. I mean, our healthcare system is totally broken, and the only way you have change is when the masses, when the people have the power. But the people have to mobilize, the people have to form, the people have to align. So, if I had a dream, I would say, my dream is that, millions of people will mobilize and align and form on common themes and form a common sort of a brotherhood, and agree on acceptable behaviors and unacceptable behaviors, and agree on an approach like ignore those people that don't embrace, don't attack them, ignore those people. Only support the restaurants who support our values and beliefs, only support the brands who support, our values and beliefs. If 300 million people mobilized and aligned, let's just say 20 million people mobilized and aligned around a common theme for a higher good, not for self, but for selfless service, for country, for God, for unity, then change happens.
You're absolutely right. JD, this has been a fascinating conversation. I appreciate your time. So for our viewers, we'll put the link down in the comments below, but it's the messengergroup.com and
messengerinstitute.com.
Messengerinstitute.com, forgive me, messengerinstitute.com and thephoenixinitiatives.com.
Just Phoenix Initiatives, no the.
No, the phoenixinitiatives.com. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me, Dush. I really appreciated it.
It's a wonderful conversation. We'll have you back, in a few months when things are getting going, and perhaps after November, we'll have a new world to report on.
Yeah. Oh, also include the free link on the Unleashing Power community. So,
Yeah, okay. Why
okay,
don't you get
great.
it to me and we'll put it in the link.
Okay, great. All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dush.
Thank you.
Take care.